The Catholic Church is one of the most enduring and influential institutions in human history. At its heart lies the papacy, the office of the Pope, considered by Catholics to be the spiritual successor to St. Peter, the chief of Jesus' apostles. The intertwining of theological authority, ecclesiastical structure, and worldly power in the form of papism has shaped not only religious life, but also political, cultural, and social developments across continents for nearly 2 millennia. Origins of the Catholic Church and the Petrine Doctrine. Christianity began as a small Jewish sect in the 1st century CE in the Roman province of Judea. According to the New Testament, Jesus appointed Peter as the rock upon which he would build his church, Matthew 16, verse 18. Early Christian communities were loosely organized, but Peter became a central figure in the community at Rome, which later became the spiritual center of the church. The Petrine Doctrine, which holds that the Bishop of Rome is the direct successor of St. Peter, became foundational for the papacy. While other major cities such as Antioch, Alexandria, and Jerusalem also had important bishops, Rome held a special primacy, due both to Peter's martyrdom there, traditionally dated around 64 CE under Emperor Nero, and Rome's status as the imperial capital. Third, the early church and the rise of the papacy, 1st to 5th centuries. During the first 3 centuries, Christians were often persecuted by Roman authorities. The church was clandestine, and bishops served more as spiritual guides than as administrators of large ecclesiastical bureaucracies. The turning point came with Emperor Constantine's Edict of Milan, 313 CE, which legalized Christianity. In 380 CE, Emperor Theodosius I declared Christianity the official state religion of the Roman Empire. The Bishop of Rome, increasingly recognized as the spiritual leader of Western Christendom, began to assert greater influence. In the 5th century, Pope Leo I, 440 to 461, also known as Leo the Great, asserted that the Pope held universal jurisdiction over the entire church, reinforcing the Petrine Doctrine. He famously negotiated with Attila the Hun, symbolizing the Pope's emerging political authority. 4. The medieval papacy, 6th to 11th centuries. During the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, the papacy became a stabilizing institution. Popes such as Gregory I, R. 590 to 604, expanded the church's missionary outreach, sending monks to evangelize Anglo-Saxon England and strengthening the authority of the Roman See. During the Carolingian era, the Pope began crowning emperors, starting with Charlemagne in 800 CE. This coronation symbolized a fusion of religious and political authority. The doctrine of the 2 swords emerged, wherein the church held spiritual power and kings wielded temporal authority. However, the church also suffered during the pornocracy period in the 10th century, when secular Roman aristocrats controlled the papacy. This led to calls for reform, especially from monastic centers such as Cluny. V. The Gregorian reforms and papal supremacy, 11th to 13th centuries. The Gregorian reforms, led by Pope Gregory VII, R. 1073 to 1085, were aimed at purifying the church. Key goals included enforcing clerical celibacy, ending simony, the buying and selling of church offices, and asserting papal independence from secular rulers. The investiture controversy between Pope Gregory VII and Emperor Henry IV of the Holy Roman Empire became a major confrontation over who had the authority to appoint bishops. Gregory excommunicated the emperor, and Henry was forced to do public penance at Canossa in 1077, a dramatic display of papal power. The 12th and 13th centuries were a high point of papal supremacy, epitomized by Pope Innocent III, R. 1198 to 1216, who claimed authority over all Christian kings. He called the Fourth Crusade, convened the Fourth Lateran Council, and shaped doctrine and church governance for generations. The papal monarchy became a reality. The Pope not only ruled over a vast ecclesiastical hierarchy, but also presided over the papal states, a significant temporal domain in central Italy. V6. The decline and crisis of the papacy, 14th to 15th centuries. The 14th century brought about significant challenges. The Avignon papacy, 1309 to 1377, during which 7 popes resided in Avignon, France, rather than Rome, was seen by many as a period of corruption and French domination. The Babylonian captivity, as it was mockingly called, diminished the universal authority of the Pope. After Pope Gregory X returned the papacy to Rome, the Great Western Schism, 1378 to 1417, followed, during which rival popes claimed legitimacy from Rome and Avignon. At one point, a third pope was elected by the Council of Pisa. This schism severely damaged the credibility of the papacy. The Council of Constance, 1440-1418, ended the schism and reasserted conciliar authority, that is, the idea that general councils had power over the pope in times of crisis. While the papacy was restored, its reputation had suffered, and reform movements like the Hussites and Wyclifites gained traction. Set. The Protestant Reformation and Counter-Reformation, 16th to 17th centuries. The 16th century saw a seismic rupture with the Protestant Reformation, initiated by Martin Luther in 1517. Luther's criticism of indulgences and papal corruption galvanized reformers across Europe. He denied the Pope's authority and championed sola scriptura, the idea that Scripture alone is the basis for Christian faith. Other reformers, such as John Calvin and Ulrich Zwingli, also rejected papal primacy, and Protestant churches arose that fundamentally opposed Catholic hierarchical structure. The Catholic Church responded with the Counter-Reformation, beginning with the Council of Trent, 1545 to 1563. This council reaffirmed traditional doctrines such as transubstantiation, veneration of saints, and papal authority, while addressing abuses like simony and lax discipline. New religious orders like the Jesuits, founded by Ignatius of Loyola, emerged to defend papal orthodoxy and carry out missionary work worldwide. The papacy became more centralized and disciplined, particularly under strong leaders like Pope Pius V and Pope Sixtus V. The modern papacy, 18th to 19th centuries. The Enlightenment and subsequent revolutions of the 18th century posed serious ideological and political threats to the papacy. Rationalism, secularism, and democratic ideals challenged the traditional foundations of papal authority. The French Revolution, 1789, brought a wave of anti-clericalism, and Napoleon Bonaparte imprisoned Pope Pius VII, stripped the papacy of temporal authority, and restructured the church in France. The 19th century saw a major realignment. The First Vatican Council, 1869 to 1870, defined the doctrine of papal infallibility, asserting that when the Pope speaks ex cathedra from the chair of St. Peter on matters of faith and morals, he is preserved from error. Meanwhile, the unification of Italy under Garibaldi and Victor Emmanuel II led to the annexation of the Papal States in 1870. The Pope became a prisoner of the Vatican, refusing to leave the Apostolic Palace in protest. Achex, the papacy in the 20th century. The crisis of the Papal States was resolved by the Lateran Treaty, 1929, between the Holy See and Mussolini's Italy. It created Vatican City as an independent sovereign state with the Pope as its head. Popes in the 20th century navigated wars, totalitarianism, and modernity. Pope Pius XII led during World War II, controversially maintaining neutrality while being accused of not doing enough to oppose the Holocaust. The Second Vatican Council, 1962 to 1965, under Pope John III and Pope Paul VI, brought dramatic reforms. The Mass was now celebrated in the vernacular. The Church promoted ecumenism, religious liberty, and a more open engagement with the modern world. Pope John Paul II, R. 1978 to 2005, the first non-Italian pope in over 400 years, became a global figure. He played a pivotal role in opposing communism in Eastern Europe, especially in his native Poland. His extensive travels and conservative theological stances revitalized Catholic identity, even as the Church struggled with scandals and secularism. X. The papacy in the 21st century. In recent decades, the Catholic Church has faced numerous crises: the global clergy sexual abuse scandal, declining church attendance in the West, and internal debates over doctrine and pastoral care. Pope Benedict XVI, 2005 to 2013, a theologian and traditionalist, emphasized liturgical reverence and doctrinal clarity. His surprise resignation in 2013, the first papal resignation in over 600 years, shocked the world. He was succeeded by Pope Francis, the first Latin American pope, known for his humility, focus on social justice, climate change, and pastoral outreach. While praised for his openness, Francis has also drawn criticism from conservatives who fear doctrinal dilution. and Exius, theological and political role of the papacy. Throughout history, the Pope has claimed to be both Vicar of Christ and Supreme Pontiff. This dual identity carries spiritual and administrative authority. The Pope appoints bishops, defines doctrine, calls councils, and issues encyclicals. Politically, the papacy has often acted as a sovereign entity. From negotiating with emperors in the Middle Ages to representing moral authority in global diplomacy, popes have wielded unique soft power. However, the balance between papal monarchy and collegial governance remains an ongoing tension, especially in the post-Vatican II era. Conclusion. The history of the Catholic Church and Papism is one of endurance, adaptation, and controversy. From the catacombs of ancient Rome to the halls of the Vatican, from theological dogma to political diplomacy, the papacy has remained a central pillar of global Christianity. It has been both a force of tradition and reform, empire and humility, dogma and dialogue. As the Catholic Church navigates a rapidly changing world with growing secularism, interfaith encounters, and technological challenges, the papacy continues to redefine its mission in the third millennium. Still resting on the ancient promise, "You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church."